I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education of Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 to order. And I'll take a motion to enter executive session for the superintendent's 2021 goals and MOA with the AARH regarding support for Remote Learning Academy, personnel changes regarding the Remote Learning Academy, and an update regarding a matter related to the Good Shepherd property. Moved by Nikki, seconded by Jennifer. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. Where are we going? Are we staying here? Okay. All right. So we're going to head over, I guess, to the C-Wing conference room. I'd like to call this regular meeting back to order, and I'd like to ask everyone that's willing and able to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start with some introductions. I'm Diane McBride. I'm the board president, and to my right,
Anne-Marie Skaczynski, Board Vice President. Good evening, everyone. Karen Flanagan, School District Clerk.
Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Laird, Board Member.
Hi, everyone. May Abdullah, Board Member.
Good evening, Nelana Salm, Assistant Superintendent of Student and Family Services.
Good evening, Andy Whitmore, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations.
Good evening, Dina Wilson, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction.
Good evening, Pat McHugh, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and School Accountability.
James O'Brien, Board Member.
Good evening, Nikki LaPlaca, Board Member.
George Day Marteau, Attorney for the district.
Good evening, Bo Wright, Superintendent of Schools.
next is our agenda review. We're just adding 2 items to our personnel actions, so they'll bring us 1 through 30. Are there any other changes to our agenda? Seeing none, any announcements? All right, this brings us to the public forum. This is where audience members may address the board regarding items of interest that are not on the agenda. If you wish to speak about an item on the agenda, raise your hand when that item is under discussion, and we'll bring you forward. Tonight we're going to be using this microphone right here in front. We ask you to limit your comments to about 3 minutes. And the board may not necessarily answer your question this evening because it may require some research to answer that question, and then someone would be able to get back to you regarding your questions. I have 3 cards in front of me at this time. And the first card I have this evening is from Kevin Yost. Kevin, can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Kevin Yost, 1474 Middle Road, Rush address. Good evening. As I'm sure all of the board members and administrators are aware, next year, 2021, is the district's 75th anniversary. And hopefully the effects, and especially the economic effects of the pandemic, will not interfere with celebrations of that. And I had some ideas for celebrations, and some of which were same or similar celebrations for the 50th anniversary in '97 and the 60th anniversary in '06. One could be in '97 the board and the superintendent marched in the Henry Memorial Day Parade, as they always do, but this time they had banners, and not sure if they had floats celebrating the district's 50th anniversary. That could be in the Henry Memorial Day Parade and floats and banners then, and as well as the Rush Fireman's Parade. I don't know if Rush is going to continue to have a Memorial Day parade if they're just going to have a ceremony at with the veterans at the Pine Hill Cemetery, if they're going to have a parade or not. If they do have a parade, it'll be in that as well. And also a bus tour using a school bus of the town historians of Henrietta and Rush, and similar to what was done to the two towns bicentennials 2 years ago, except to go from this high school parking lot rather than the Transportation Operations Center parking lot, and visit the different school sites. The one-room schoolhouse that formed Rush-Henrietta District, maybe also this time also include the historians of Brighton and Pittsburgh to show maybe any one-room school sites that were in West Brighton, at the western sliver of Pittsburgh there in the district. And then this time also to discuss the Monroe Academy. Henrietta High School is up here on the corner. And the calendars and on the website photos of early district days of Rush-Henrietta District, or the old school districts that formed into Rush-Henrietta. And then in October of 21, just have a ceremony in the Roth cafeteria on the same night as when a board meeting is scheduled, and have a regular scheduled board meeting in the Roth library, similar to what was done in 06 for the 60th anniversary. And this also happens to coincide with the same year as the Monroe County's 200th anniversary bicentennial. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for bringing that to our attention. The next card I have is Mike Kaida. And I apologize if I said that wrong.
It's Mike Kita. We're 11 Bracknell Circle, West Henrietta. Obviously, we have a second grader, fourth grader, and our 10th grader in the district for 11 years. We've been residents. First time, I think, breakfast with Bo, that was great. We had to voice our concern, right? Never had an issue, never have any concerns with the district until our son Marcello. He's currently, or will be, a fourth grader at Balmer. We've, reached out numerous times. And footnote to this, as of a few hours ago, we do have a meeting scheduled with Ms. Tomelty and Ms. Jessica Bailey and the CSE. So that's kind of in between the comments of what I wrote out, but I'll still voice them because it's still important to push and voice the concerns that we have. The wait-and-see approach that's been pushed and mentioned to us several times, he's in fourth grade. We've waited and seen that he's still at a first grade reading level. It's not to any disinfect of his teachers. They've all been great, right? The teachers go above and beyond. That's what they do. That's why they're teachers. I think it's a position that the districts put them in and that the administrations put them in. Case in point, last year, the situation with going from Leary into Crane, he was all for it. ICOT putting the teachers in the position. It wasn't a good situation last year for third grade, and obviously the curveball everybody had at the end of the year was nobody's fault with that. But online learning for a kid like Mark just doesn't work. That leads us to, with his IEP, obviously his education, his mental well-being, having his IEP, having his ASD diagnosis, that 2 days a week just doesn't cut it. We haven't started it, but I could tell you it just doesn't cut it. He is here with me. He set out on his own today. I'll go to school every day I can. The online stuff, probably not going to happen. He'll go to school every day that's possible, right? And others have said that. We've provided professional guidance and recommendations. We've done our part as parents and being proactive about it and continue to push, and we will continue to push. I see that the numbers in the agenda, or in the numbers that I was hopefully seeing, and they were out there, that 148 Balmer students taking a part of the Remote Learning Academy. We thought when we saw that many students, selected 1/5 of the district, that there would be space to make kids like Marcello to be accommodated for 4 days a week. And especially with 148 at Balmer, I looked at the breakdown. It's pretty even across grade level. It's pretty even across building, right, of that breakdown, which is kind of surprising, but it's the way that numbers came out. Like I said, his teachers have been good. Up to really a couple hours ago, that was the first response. First real response of let's talk about it, let's have a discussion from anybody. Like I said, we provided the professional guidance and recommendations. Those have been met with total disregard, I would say. We're doing our part outside the district, outside of school, to support him. And from his last CSE meeting, and I feel this is important, and I've mentioned this before in email to some of you, that from his CSE meeting, the takeaway comment was, we don't tell them how to medicate, so they shouldn't tell us how to teach. That was in his CSE meeting. Not the brightest light for the district, is it? And it's not obviously shining the common goal of what's best for Marcella, right? That's the common goal of what he deserves from the district and what we're all trying to support him here. And to have that comment come in a CSE meeting is obviously very inappropriate and not professional, and I've felt that needed to be shared in front of everybody today. The last closing comment, obviously the district, regardless of the situation, and I know it's a big situation, and there hasn't been much guidance from the state, from anywhere, right? And I'm sure it's been hard across from the district, right? Because they've thrown it up to everybody to make up their own plans, and it could have been a little bit clearer from above down for the district to, make things happen, right? But it still provides a responsibility for the learning environment and structure that fits each child's need individually. And to the point, there's a lot of kids in the district, but every kid's different. And I think that's what we ran into last year. In third grade, every kid, there's a lot of things going on just thrown into one classroom, put the teachers in a big, they were limited in what they could do. He was supposed to get more, he got less. He fell behind. Now, obviously, with the end of the year, that probably fell everybody behind, to be quite honest. And we'll see how this year goes, but like I said, felt like I needed to still come here, even with that meeting in place, to voice the concern in front of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I hope your meeting goes well, and let us know. The third card that I have is Thomas Coleman.
Thomas Coleman, 22 Heatherdale Chase in Henrietta. I wasn't going to come tonight, but I'm passionate on what I'm going to be addressing the board with. Is when I got my son's schedule, and they both go to Roth, and I looked at the schedule, and I appreciate all the work that was done under the circumstances, but the last period of the day was PE, and there was no time on the PE. I don't know what's going on with the PE, but the only thing I'm surmising from it is that it's going to be virtual because there's no time slot allotted for that. I want to, if I could, find out how did that get distributed to the community, because I was never aware of this. I looked through all of the emails that Bo have sent. I saw nothing in there in regards to the specials in general. It was just a kind of like a little thing, and then it was just talking about the core. The specials are part of a student's education. And PE and physical activity, in my opinion, is even more important. To get the kids up and moving. We've been in the pandemic since March. How much of that physical activity did those kids get? That's the big unknown. And now they're coming back to school, going through all day, sitting in the classrooms, no physical activity. And you're going to depend on the honor code for the kids to do this. Are they going to do it? I don't know. Are the parents going to make them do it? I don't know. But what are we paying the phys ed teachers to educate? Yes, you can give them virtual assignments, but why not one day out of the two? Why can't they make the kids come one day for some type of physical activity so we can see. Physical education is a participation authentic as you can get right there in front of you. You can't get that virtually unless they videotape it. And I'm sure the phys ed teachers would not want all these videos coming back to them. So I'm just a little miffed on, of all the subjects, why PE is virtual, 100%. If it's a hybrid schedule, my kids, in my opinion, should get everything if they're going hybrid. One day of the week, they should have PE. I can take care of the other one, but why not one day? Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing there's only two other individuals in the audience, anybody else have any comments? This brings us to item 6, our consent agenda items for routine matters, treasurer's reports, donations, CSC recommendations, our board meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to accept? Anne Marie, second by Nikki. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Sorry, folks, with this setup, I'm doing a big head swivel to make sure I don't miss anybody. Next is our personnel actions, 1 through 30. I'll take them. Nikki, do you want to?
Yep, I just want to let the record state for number 13 and 17 that I'm related to Rosetta LaPlaca, and I do not need to abstain.
Okay, everybody got that? All right.
I did not hear what she said.
She said for item 3 and 17?
13 and 17.
13 and 17, she's related to Rosetta LaPlaca, but she does not need to abstain because it's not a conflict of interest for her. So I'll take a motion to accept. I have Jennifer, and second by May. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Laird. All right. This brings us to our memorandum of agreement, and I will take a motion to accept. Nikki? Second by Mrs. Laird. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 6-0. Then item 9 is our policy administrative regulation change. This is an action pertaining to the approval of our policy and administrative regulation while complying with the governor's executive orders due to COVID-19 pandemic. I'll take a motion to accept. May? A second? Anne Marie? Any discussion, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. That brings us to our workshop on our child abuse reporting, our annual training.
So included in your packet is the overview of what is expected for any individuals who work in the school district, including the Board of Education, for us to keep this topic in the forefront. We were trying to get you the video this year so you didn't have to go through the packet, and even looking through online to see if there was any additions to the packets that I give you every year, but this is the best one and none of the information has changed. And as you know, with COVID-19, since many of the students remain at home and we haven't been able to see them, so it is always important every year to remind individuals that we have an obligation to make sure that when we see something, we say something. And so this year, all of the staff is doing that online as well through Safe School, so we have a video for them, but we wanted to let you know that the packet remains the same and all of the information is still the same.
Any questions, comments? It is very thorough, the information that is sent to us, so thank you. All right. I guess that brings us then to item 11, our workshop on district priorities.
Okay. As you know, at our last meeting, we presented a draft of our proposed priorities for the upcoming school year, based on our school improvement planning, based on where we ended the year in respect to our 1920 priorities. And we were in the process of gathering feedback from many of the community stakeholders that under normal circumstances would have been a part of that Leadership Monday that we always have to start off Leadership Week, that first week in August. So tonight, this is the final version of what we're proposing as far as our district priorities for the 2021 school year, based on the feedback that we received from that group, based on the feedback that we received from all of you at our last meeting. You'll notice that we did make some of the language changes that were proposed under instruction. You'll also notice that under mental wellness, that we added some information to this priority as well. So we are proposing that we continue our focus on equity and inclusion, mental wellness, instruction, and special education, but with some minor changes in terms of our areas of focus. So at this point, are there any questions or comments based on this final version of the priorities? Because what we would be asking of you tonight, if you are in agreement and would like to move forward, is that we would be asking you to adopt these priorities as a board.
Anyone have any questions or concerns? All right, then I will go ahead and ask for that motion to accept the adoption of the proposed 2021 district priorities. Moved by Nikki, second by Jennifer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, they are approved.
Should I keep rolling then?
Keep rolling.
Okay. There were 5 items that were submitted as written reports: the student disciplinary referrals report for the second semester, the school safety educational climate data summary report, the Title I parent meeting notifications report, probationary faculty list with tenure appointment dates, and then a report that was requested related to the enrollment for the Remote Learning Academy, otherwise known as the RLA. Are there any questions or comments related to any of those written documents?
No?
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the reopening of schools. I'm so reluctant to say it, but it was a good day. It was a nice day. It was great to have our kids back in our buildings. I thought we had a great week of preparation with our faculty and staff last week. Thank you for making that calendar amendment happen, because I do think it really benefited us in terms of being ready for today and being prepared. And I think that everyone was grateful to have that time in those consecutive days last week. I think the buildings looked great, and as I visited schools this morning, everyone was ready to learn. I had to remind myself that folks hadn't been in a typical school setting for 6 months. So in many ways it looked and felt very different, and I think it will as we move through the school year in terms of what our classrooms look like. I mean, there are a lot less kids in our schools. In most schools, you had probably maybe 35% of the student population that we would typically have, because of the number of students that we have in the Remote Learning Academy, and also because of the regulations that we had to implement from the State Education Department and the Department of Health related to distancing. You know, we have distancing markers in our hallways. Obviously, indoors, most of our students and staff were wearing masks unless they were physically distanced. And you know, there was mention of what the schedules are going to look like this year, and in some cases they are going to look very different because of what we're required to do in courses like physical education, which was mentioned, where the regulations state that we have to keep students distanced at 12 feet in a gymnasium. So at the secondary level, where you have scores of kids that are typically scheduled into those gymnasiums, it just wasn't going to work. We are required to distance students at 12 feet if they're singing or playing an instrument, which is very challenging to try to accommodate those programs and find a space that you can do that. So we know that things are going to look and feel different, but you know, a lot felt the same too, which made me feel good as I visited buildings in terms of the buzz and the excitement that's typically there for a first day. And I felt that with the adults in the building, and I felt that with the kids and the families that we serve. So, you know, I always, especially in a year like this, and having gone through the past 6 months, where you never know what's going to happen day to day, I'm really reluctant to say that it was a smooth start, but it was a smooth start, and it was a nice way to start the year. And I say that not knowing what tomorrow will bring. Tomorrow could be very different, but it was a good day today, and that's because of all of you, and because of our team, our administrators, our teachers, our faculty and staff, our families. So I'm really appreciative, because you know, there was a lot of anxiety that went into opening our doors today, and it's nice when things go for the most part according to plan. You know, we do have some challenges. We are experiencing a bus driver shortage again. You know, it's become a little bit more difficult this year because of the pandemic and the worries of some of the folks in that department because of health reasons. We anticipated that this would happen, so you know, we're gonna do our very best to go out and replace those positions, but we're down a number of bus driver positions again. One of the challenges that I heard in each building today centered around the attestations. As you know, staff and the families of students have to go through a health screening every day where they're monitoring symptoms and then submitting an attestation. And I think, you know, it was the first day. There's a lot going on, and a lot of families forgot to do that. So we had to go and find those students as they came into school and take temperatures and go through the screening process with them. So before Wednesday is a day, tomorrow is a day that's all virtual, and so we won't be sending a reminder today, but we will be sending it prior to Thursday just to remind families that they need to submit the attestation. So hopefully those numbers go down. And we're excited about the possibilities of the Remote Learning Academy, but we are accommodating a lot more students than we had initially anticipated. We're up over 1,300 kids. We have, I think, over 100 teachers supporting the Remote Learning Academy. And so I just want to put it on your radar that there's a possibility. We also have a waiting list right now because it's, we held the window open as long as we possibly could to accommodate families who needed it. But now that the school year started, we had to wait list a lot of families. So there's a possibility that we may need to add some more resources there. But like I said, really proud to be a Royal Comet today and really proud of our team. And I say that knowing that we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of areas where we need to improve. But today was a good day. And that concludes the superintendent's report. I'll open it up for questions and comments. And I also, I would want to give our cabinet members an opportunity, if they so choose, to add anything that I may have missed that you need to know about. Does anybody, Nirlan, Andy, anything that you want to add?
No, I would echo the same things that you said as well. As we were making rounds this morning, I thought it was a pretty nice, smooth start, other than a few minor refinements that needs to be made along the way. I agree.
Yeah, you mentioned the transportation, and we need 114 bus drivers. We have 94 right now. We are getting resignations up through yesterday, but those who came did a great job. They were willing to switch runs on a moment's notice, and we really probably had the best opening day ever for transportation, because everybody who did show up was willing to pitch in and adapt and made it work.
Pat and Dina, anything to add or anything we left out?
I would agree. It was a smooth opening overall. Big shout out to all our teachers, especially the teachers during the Remote Learning Academy. This is a brand new model that we're implementing. It's cutting edge, and it was amazing how students and teachers connected today with not ever having that in-person opportunity. So there were some minor hiccups, just trying to figure out, did I get the email from the teacher? Had to change my schedule yesterday, didn't get my Google Classroom sent to me, but overall, I was very, very proud and pleased of our students and our staff and how they handled not only the hybrid model today, but more importantly, the Remote Learning Academy. The one thing I just want to remind board members, because you might hear a little bit over the next week, that at the secondary level, we do need to make some schedule adjustments. I need everyone to keep in mind that in 4 weeks, we rebuilt our hybrid model as well as a remote model, and we did the best we could. Our hands are tied because our information system platform, school tool, could only do a very limited amount of adjustments in order to do scheduling of a hybrid and a remote and be able to make those two platforms interface when you're trying to schedule. So the technology end of it is not running smoothly either, because we can't see things and move things in a schedule like we normally can using technology, and we're going back to some of the old school ways of doing it on whiteboards. So a shout out to, first of all, our counselors who have worked a tremendous amount of hours, and our principals. But with that being said, now that we ran our first day, we are aware of some gaps that we have in courses for students, as well as some inequities among our teaching staff for their course loads. So tomorrow, Pat and I will be meeting with principals, with head schedulers, some of the directors, and it's going to be coming together, making some adjustments, which means that there will be schedule changes over the next week for the hybrid and remote learning families. We will communicate. It's very common to schedules change, even in a normal condition, but we are going to have to ask our families and our students and teachers to be patient. But we'd rather make some changes this first week to make it right than go into a school year knowing that we have some inequities for our students to participate in courses, as well as the amount of students that teachers are interacting with. So that is one of the major things that we will be working on, that we want everyone to be aware of, because it will cause a little bit of anxiousness. And people have been great, they've been patient, they've been flexible, but we're asking them to hang in there for about one more week so we can make things right. So that's just the one little addition I want to add as a little heads up.
Is this balancing like hybrid to in-person, or is it asking students to change, or is it looking at the number of kids in a certain class?
So as the superintendent explained, we had a lot of parents ask for the remote than they originally did when we first started looking at this. So one, we did allow a lot of students in, even after we send out the first request. Many people maybe did not get the email. We had some translation difficulties with some of our families, and we had some families with health needs. So up until the end of August, we were very receptive to adding students to the remote, and that's how we came up to the number of over 1,300. In the hybrid schedule, you're still trying to figure out your cohort A and your cohort B and even that out, because even though there might be 20 kids in that section, there could be 2 kids sitting there one day, 18 kids sitting there another day. So you were trying to even that out among the cohort A and B, and then as well, making sure that teachers that are in the remote learning academy don't have double the amount of students that the hybrid teachers have. So there's a couple different pieces to the puzzle that we're trying to weigh out. We want there to be equity if you're a remote teacher or if you're a hybrid teacher, and then we're also trying to balance the cohorts so that you're balancing day A and day B. So there's a couple different pieces to the puzzle that we're trying to resolve. Our goal is that if you have nice class sizes, the students are going to have better interactions with their teacher and one another. And then for our teachers, obviously, you can't have one teacher that have 5 sections and every section's massed at 30, where another teacher has 5 sections and they're only in the teens. Okay, so we have to balance from a couple different perspectives. And you can't see all this in one schedule, because you're running 3 different schedules that you have to analyze by paper, because our school tool management system isn't allowing the platforms to interact, unfortunately.
Thank you.
So I was fortunate enough to start this morning at Roth Junior High School at about 6:45, and I had the feeling as I was driving up, it was just so great to see those yellow buses on the road again and kids going to school. Something you take for granted, but this year we don't. And to watch the kids, well, first of all, to see the lines of teachers with their cowbells and their Roth shirts on, ringing the bells every time a bus would pull up with kids, and the kids getting off their bus the first day of school, their new sneakers, their new book bags, just like any other year, only this time they had their masks, and it was great. And we saw that in all the buildings, and I think Bo is correct. As much as we don't want to jinx ourselves, it was a great start to the year, and I'm very hopeful for the rest of this year. Oh, and by the way, Andy, I just found out before I came over to the meeting, one of our trainees has passed their CDL, so we're adding a bus driver. You're up to 95.
And just something I heard on the news before I came tonight that kind of put something in perspective to me. Yeah, we think 6 months, since this started. But if you really do the math, it's 180 days. Essentially, these kids have been away from us like a whole school year. So the fact that we're back together is something really to celebrate. So thank you to everyone and all the work that's been done everywhere. And you just can't even, there's just people behind the scenes that you don't even realize are doing things. Our teachers have been wonderful, administration's been wonderful, but all the people behind the scenes getting Alexon up and, bus drivers, it's just wonderful to see. And I was so excited to see a bus go down my street today, so. So. Any other comments, anybody? All right. And that was it for you?
That was it for me.
All right. New business. My computer went to sleep. It is, get myself back up, our board goals and objectives. And very much like the district priorities, there weren't a lot of changes that I put into the document, because if they're reflecting our district priorities, we're still working on a lot of the same items because they are our priorities. What I did add to it, and then it's open for discussion if we need to add other items or take something out, which I'm really quite okay with. Under the high levels of student learning, I added support efforts to strengthen ICT instructional models and provide needed supports. Seeing we're in this remote learning and the hybrid learning, I felt it was really important that we keep on top of our ICT for this year. I mean, we usually do, but I thought it was should be a priority for us, a board goal, just to keep our eye on it, to ask the questions and make sure that things are happening in the way that we need to be happening. Under continuous improvement, I took out implement live streaming and put monitor our live streaming of the board meetings, just to keep our eye on that as well and see what kind of changes we might be needing to make. Also, under the prepare the FAQs for new board members, I put /review onboarding process. We need to make sure that we're keeping our eyes on that and focused on, you know, anything that we need to change on our process. I don't think I added anything different than that. So that's kind of just the small adjustments to the board goals. And I open it up for some conversation. If anybody feels there's something we need to add to it, delete.
The only thing I saw was responsible resource management. The
Mhm.
first one where it says oversee negotiations and adopt new teachers and facilities contracts. I think that just needs to be updated, correct? I know teachers are going to be due, but don't we have the
It'll be the coalition, not
Coalition.
facilities.
I left the new teachers one
Yeah, I know
because we'll be
teachers, yeah.
starting, we'll
We
be
will.
starting again. So
So
we
the
can make
It'll be-
that instead of
It'll be
facilities.
coalition instead of facilities.
Facilities, okay? Anything else? All right. So would that change to make it coalition contracts? Do we want to bring it back to the next meeting, or do we want to act on it tonight?
I'll act tonight.
Okay. So is that, you're making a motion to accept our district,
I'd like
our
a
board?
motion to accept our
Board goals?
proposals.
All right. Second? Nikki? Any other conversation? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0, thank you. The next item is our Nisba conference resolutions. I'm just going to remind you of the process, they haven't come out yet, the resolutions. This year's business meeting for Nisba will be a virtual meeting, which I will attend. We'll be seeing the resolutions. Karen will do our little sheet for us. If you can make sure you go through and mark them for me. I don't care if you hand it back to me paper or, you know, electronically. It really, really is a huge help because when we get to the meeting, a lot of times people will come to the microphone to debate the resolutions, and sometimes folks will come up and ask to change the resolution wording, and we get into some conversations. Having the conversation with you in advance helps me to know how to vote when we get to that point in the meeting. So when they are ready, Karen will send them out. Like everybody else, they're working on things right now. So they'll be out soon, all right? Are there any other items for our meeting this evening? All right, then I will ask for our meeting recap.
So short and sweet, I love it. All motions carried, and thank you, Nerlon, for the very thorough child care reporting paperwork packet. And I'm really glad to hear that the first day went really well. That makes me really happy to hear. And the only other thing is our next meeting is on September 22nd.
All right. There's no other business. I'll take a motion to adjourn. James and Nikki, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, everyone.